Joe, and today I'm speaking to Shadow Smile. Hello, sir.
How are we doing?
Not
Thank
so
you for
bad.
having me.
How are you?
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Glad to be back.
brilliant, brilliant. We had a little chat called the Wild. Oh, what about 2, 3 months ago?
Yeah, it feels
Yeah,
like 2 months, doesn't it?
yeah, it does. It does feel like a long time. I was literally just saying. I'm just pinging over the photos that finally got edited, so you'll have them to share and whatever. Um, but at the time we were talking about your current single at the time, but now you have an album out.
Yeah. It's all come out. Done really well so far, but it's really strange seeing our first album reaction and kind of going from doing so many singles. We did like 8 or 9 singles before,
Mm.
just single releases to seeing a full album come out and just the way it's really gained us a ton more traction and it's been really inspiring to see that actually, because I wasn't sure that there was whether there was still a market for albums. I wasn't sure how it was going to go. It's kind of like the Wild West these days, isn't it? In music, so who knows what's going to happen? But it's been
Yeah,
really positive. So really cool.
brilliant. I mean, just tell me about the album then. Let's talk about that first.
So it's been in the works for about probably about a year and a half now. We crowdfunded it from inception because we were putting singles out through the lockdowns when they happened a little while, and we got to the point where we had a sort of a substantial body of work ready to put together as an album.
Yeah,
The drummer and I came up with the idea of doing a concept album about the seven deadly sins. We chatted to a couple of record labels about making it and what the finance options would be there, and we decided they all wanted too much control for my liking, which I'm probably
yeah.
going to get shot for saying that, but it was all a bit. Well, we want to push you in the new wave of classic rock. We want to push you as a metalcore band, and we're like, well, we just want to do what we do and
Mm.
let the fans decide. So we thought, well, we've got a bit of an audience growing slowly, so let's put it to them, see if they want an album, see if they want to crowdfund it. So we did that, put a crowdfund together, and it took off from there. So yeah, we've just spent sort of the last year and a bit recording and mixing and mastering it. We've worked with some amazing people because we were blown away by the support that we got from the fans. I call them fans, but we kind of call them the Shadow Smart community because it feels more like a more interactive situation than artist and fan. It's kind of a bit more of a community. We kind of base that on. I don't know if you're familiar with Grateful Dead and how they used to do things, and
Yeah.
they really built their community up, and that's what we're trying to aspire to do. Anyway, I can go off on a tangent. I can.
No,
Um,
no.
so we really got in with what they wanted and kind of trying to balance that our artistic output versus the where the audience felt Shadow Smart belonged in the market, for want of a better word.
Mm.
And we really tried to gauge that as much as we could, and I think that's paid off because they all seem to really like it so far. The community we've got around us. So um, yeah, the album it's really a collection of um, 8 songs and then some kind of conceptual interludes and things like that going on, which was influenced by well, probably my more than anyone else in the band's love of old school albums like Dark Side of the Moon. Those old concept albums where everything was woven together and you'd have
Yeah.
passages that dictated that. So yeah, and it's all come together really nicely. We've put 3 singles out so far, and then obviously the rest of the album came out last week on Friday. And yeah, it's both our it's our heaviest work to date. It's our lightest work to date. It's our most rock and roll. It's our least rock and roll. So it's weird because we've spanned quite a lot of our influences and tried to really be as eclectic as we can on the album without not sounding like Shadow Smile, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to it the other day, and it it does just cross genres. You can't pigeonhole yourselves at all whatsoever. Like you said about new wave of classic rock. I mean, one of your singles sounds a bit like that, but then you got the metalcore, and then you got something else completely different, and it's so fantastic because you're actually bringing together a whole so many different tribes of metal and rock, if that makes sense. You're appealing to quite a cross section of people, and that's only got to be a good thing.
I mean, I think so, and thank you for the kind words there. But I think it's for me, it's we wanted it to be a real celebration of everything we love about music and rock and metal primarily, but then even we love other kinds of music. We love, like, I love a lot of classical and also a lot of like electronic music, and it's kind of like going, do you know what, everyone's welcome here. Like, it's not just for metalheads, it's not just for rock fans, it's like it is for those people, like, absolutely. But if you're kind of if we're your gateway into rock music, then even better, like that's kind of how we were looking at it. Like, all my favorite bands are those bands that the hardcore fans may snub, like your Metallicas, your Queen, your Guns N' Roses, but they were a lot of people, including my gateway into this kind of music. And I think that's because I found them while they were doing something that wasn't all that heavy or wasn't all that, all that stuck in a box. So, and that's what I mean, I suppose that's a bit of a delusion of grandeur to put our name with those, but I guess it's just that inspiration of that inspiration of, we don't want to just do for a very small number of people. I think the fans that we've gained so far really understand that they're in it for, it's an up and down roller coaster, because we're gonna change on the flip of a coin and do whatever we feel like doing.
It certainly does change on the flip of a coin, how the old album. So you never know quite what to expect with the next track. So yeah, well done. I mean, the album's called Signed in Blood. We ought to say that, Signed in Blood, Shadow Smile. And you said it's conceptual. So explain to me the concept behind all the songs.
Yeah, so it's essentially a concept album about the 7 deadly sins, but obviously that's not a new concept to be dealt with in the rock world. But we kind of wanted to take the slant on it of, all right, so we live in a mainly non-religious society now, but these things are still prevalent within culture. So it's how these things, these concepts of the sins, work in modern day life. So because these things didn't start with the Catholic Church, much to a lot of people's misconception, the 7 deadly sins are like ancient Eastern wisdom that's been passed along, and then in different names and different guises. And so we looked at, like, okay, so we've got the sins. What would that be in modern day life? So we took, for example, gluttony and the concept of that, and we thought, well, the clear modern day thing is, we consume so much like fast food and all that kind of thing. We're consuming resources at an alarming rate, and even like data and technology, where we'd read a book when I was growing up. I'm not that old, but not that books are old, but I still read books. But, whereas now you don't need to read a book, because you can just Google the answer to anything, or any story is just at the touch of your finger. So we're consuming all the time, and that was the way we thought, well, that's kind of a modern gluttony. And I guess with pride, we looked at how vanity is everything. Everybody's obsessed with their looks now, probably because of social media, and there's more photos in circulation now than in ever in history. But also the other side of pride is, like, we fight these battles and these wars and then we can't back down, because it's like, well, we've put our pride into it now. So it's just kind of taking those slants. And then, so about a year ago, I was wandering through York, through some bookshops, because that's what I do on my days off. And I found an old bookshop, and I found a copy of Dante's Inferno, which, if any for people who don't know, is a medieval epic poem, and the whole thing is a journey through hell. So we kind of looked at that, and I was like, wow, this works perfectly with the album we're making. Let's make the album musically this journey through hell. So we kind of, if you listen to the actual music, it kind of starts and ends in a safe rock metal place. And the idea of that is that Dante's Inferno starts and ends on Earth, and then there's a journey through hell, and you kind of end up back there. So we kind of tried to treat it like that musically, and then we did some passages from Dante's Inferno, which I did a good Gandalf voice for. So if you've heard the album, there's actually a load of effects on there. It was meant to sound like, have you seen Hellraiser?
Oh yes.
the idea was it was going to be like Doug Bradley for play Pinhead. We wanted him to
Yeah.
do it, but we just couldn't afford him. So I was like, well, I'll do it then. That's what we ended up with. Quite like, but I struggle to listen to it because it's that cringe factor of listening to your own voice doing these things. But it works to what it's meant to do, I think.
Okay. You seem to have embraced this kind of well, theatrics is not the word for it, but story with that throughout the whole band. I mean, you seem to be like vampires as well and things like that. So
We are. It means something to be.
well, all right then. You are. Huh? Okay.
I'm kidding. It's just a rumor. We never said that.
But has it been a fascination, like the dark side of life? Has that been like a fascination throughout?
I think so. I think it's just one of those. The vampire thing actually started out as a joke about a year, probably a bit less than a year ago. I went to see a film called The Lost Boys, which most people will have seen.
Yeah.
One of my favorite films, but they did it near me. There's an abbey, and they projected it onto the walls of the abbey, the film, and it was amazing.
Okay.
You know, at Halloween, really cool night out, and I came back and I was like, do you know what? Our image and everything is kind of like the Lost Boys were. We should, you know, we started this thing of like the Steel City Vampire Crew, and it was just a sort of tongue in cheek thing. And then we did someone said I was like, oh, there's a picture of me, and I was just sat sort of posed with my legs crossed and a glass of red wine, like a vampire aristocrat. And I was like, that's an amazing nickname. So it's like I'm going to lean into that a little bit. So it's kind of it is a fascination. I mean, I've always loved. I mean, I've got a tattoo of Whitby Abbey on my arm because that's where Bram Stoker wrote Dracula. So the vampire thing is a fascination. It is tongue in cheek, you know. We've done it where we did an interview on a radio station that escapes me with a lady, and we did it fully in character. And we kind of didn't tell her we were going to do that, and it was quite fun. And she really went with it and ran with it. It was a lot of fun. But I was. But it's one of those things where when the album came out, it was like, okay, you've got to do proper press now, and you can't really do it in character. So it's one of those things where it'll keep being a reference and a tongue-in-cheek thing, but it's I don't know. We've got a whole our moving segueing in our album launch show in September is very much themed around that as well. We're trying to make it immersive and like an experience. So, and that's going to be heavily vampire themed. So we'll see where it goes, but I don't know. It's I don't know. It's all started with a joke and it's got out of hand.
It's not out of hand. It's just rock and roll, mate.
Yeah, we're enjoying it, and people seem to be enjoying it. So that's all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah. So you mentioned the launch show. Tell me more about it.
Okay, so we're going to do it at Corporation in Sheffield, which has kind of become our spiritual home as a band because we played our very first show there. We did. We met our friend. I'm sure you probably know Tina Sherwood. Took pictures of us there, and you know we did an acoustic show at Destination, which was in her memory there, and I used to work there, so it's become like our our spiritual home. So we were like, well, we've got to do it there, but we kind of didn't want it to just be a gig, so we've kind of curated it as almost like an arts space event, but it is a gig. Don't get me wrong, but we've kind of curated the bands. We've picked 4 of our favorite bands from the underground scene, who are Bloodstained Reputation, who are a local upcoming band, Ashes of Ire, who are doing really cool things on the extreme metal scene, and Saints Among Us, who are again doing really cool stuff. So it's a kind of diverse musically lineup, but it all kind of works together in a curated way. And then there's going to be artwork there. There's going to be a lot of it's a surprise, so I can't say too much about what's going on, but it's going to be immersive and it's going to be heavily vampire themed, as I said before. But yeah, it's a lot of people are coming already. A lot of people got tickets, so I'm confident it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be playing. The latest word on this is we're going to be playing the album in full and then a short set of other songs. So that's assuming everything works. We're in rehearsals at the minute, just ironing out things that aren't quite that easy to pull off from the album, where we've gone, can we actually do that and make it work live? But I think the plan is to do the album in full. So it's going to be a good time, and you're more than welcome to join us as well if you fancy coming down, if you're available. I'm probably asked you already, but
You did ask me. I'm actually in Malta that particular week, which is
yeah.
shockingly bad timing on my wife's part for booking a holiday.
I know she should have checked our website before booking that.
I know I have had words with her, but it's
Yeah.
I'm on the losing end of that battle, I'm afraid.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and anyone listening is welcome as well. Come down.
Yeah. So where can you get tickets?
Tickets at shadowsmile.world or corporation.org.uk, or on C tickets if you prefer, but I'd rather you didn't, because they take a cut.
Right.
If I'm honest.
Okay. So once you've done a launch show and the album is in full flow, what is the next plan in world domination?
It's exactly that. I think that's the whole plan. We're gonna do a tour. We've got some shows lined up. We're doing both the Rockmantic festivals in Carlisle and in Grimsby, and we've got a load of tour dates to announce once the album launch is done. So it's going to be much more touring. We've not done a whole lot of touring, if I'm honest. We've done we've spent most of our existence as a band in the studio, and then just popping out for the odd show, which has suited us up until now. But I think it's time to get some road miles under our belt and see the world through vampire eyes, I suppose. Yeah, that's the plan. And then probably we'll get back to the studio before too long. We've got a few acoustic songs that we're going to put out later this year as well. So yeah, it's all going to be full flow from here on in, which is exciting and scary in equal measure, I think.
Oh no, surely not. I suppose you are on the lookout for festival gigs and slots and stuff like that. Yeah,
always.
Anybody that's listening, promoters and this that, and the other.
Absolutely, yeah. Always happy to drop in and put on a lovely show for you. So if you fancy booking us and giving your punters a really good time, that's my sales pitch. I'm not a salesman.
Well, I've got to say, we mentioned Call of the Wild earlier. It was one of the highlights of the weekend for me.
Oh, thank you very much. There were some good bands on it.
There were some very good bands, and I've been following your career since, must have been just before lockdown. I think you had an EP come out or something like that. I'm a bit sketchy on the times. And
me too.
I was interested in the band back then. I think it was on the Forge Ahead initiative or whatever it was. And, it was great to actually get to see you guys play live for the first time, because you just smashed out the park. Well worth seeing live. So when you say you haven't had that many gig miles under the clock on, under the belt, that surprised me a little bit, because I thought you were quite a battle-hardened band.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I guess we've all kind of come up through the scene, though, so we've kind of got gig miles separately. But as this band, no, it is. I mean, we started, let's say, just before the lockdown, and then we've not really. We started we did 2 shows, and then the lockdown happened, and then we were like, okay, let's go record some stuff. We can do it remotely these days, so we'll just do that. And then so we've all done shows, like plenty of them, and I think we are. I guess a lot of it comes from your influences as well. Like we do like a lot of the more theatrical bands, and it kind of lends itself to those bigger stages. I think if you're that way inclined, because you see us on a small club show, and it's great, but it's those big festival stages where you can really just let loose and try and we're trying to win people over. And I think we had because we were opening the main stage that day, we were kind of game face on, because it was like, well, none of these people have seen us before. They're all hungover. They don't really want us here. They'd rather be at the beer tent, just claiming their free beer for the day or whatever. So it's like, okay, we've got to smash this. And music's not a sport in any sense, but you do get that kind of competitive nature as well when you know the band's there, and you're like, well, they've just done a great set yesterday, so we need to try and everyone's kind of trying to one up each other deep down. And if they say they're not, they're lying, I think. So that's where we come at it from. But we had a great time. I think that a lot of it just comes from enjoying it and being genuine about it. I think we don't have any delusions of it. It's like we do what we like to do, and if people like that, that's amazing. And if they don't, then there'll be a band on in half an hour you probably will like. So there's no great shakes. So we might as well put it all out there and see what people think.
Yeah. Well, I think anybody going to the album launch show are in for the treat. Signed in Blood is available now. Where is the best place to buy or stream for you?
It's on all the streaming services.
Yeah.
If you want to buy it, yeah, it's on our website, shadowsmile.world. And it's also on our Bandcamp, which is Shadowsmile at Bandcamp or something like that. Shadowsmile.bandcamp, something, I don't know. But if you search it on there, the best place to buy it if you want to buy it is probably on our website, though, shadowsmile.world, because yeah, we don't have to give Bandcamp any fees then. So that's the theme running through my. I'm sick of people's hands out. Can you tell?
I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah.
But,
everybody has their hand out first, and you're last on the pile to be fed. So yeah. What about merch? Can people get specific merch from the band as well?
Yeah, we got quite a lot of merch. We've spent quite a lot of time on our merch line, trying to make it as wearable as possible and not just logo on a t-shirt. Well, you can get a logo on a t-shirt if that's what you want. That's again at shadowsmile.world. You'll find all the merch. If you come to the shows, you'll see merch everywhere. Yeah, we try and make the merch good, and we try and keep it affordable as well. Because I know we make it all. We work with a local supplier, so we can get it at good rates. So we try and keep t-shirts to like 15 quid, hoodies to like 30 quid. So, you know, we don't want to be one of those bands trying to make silly money, but at the same time, we got mortgages. So
yeah. Okay, on that note, I wish you all the very best, and thank you for your time today. And I urge everybody to go and buy the CD, to be fair.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all your kind words. Really appreciate it, and all the support.
No worries. We'll speak again.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dave. Take care.